Good evening, and welcome. Tonight we are going to wander into a forest after dark. Not a frightening forest and not an unfamiliar one, but the kind of forest that changes quietly when the light fades. A place that during the day seems easy to understand. Trees standing still, birds moving overhead, leaves shifting in the wind, sunlight touching branches and moss and bark. But at night, the forest becomes something else. Its colors soften, its edges blur, its sounds rearrange themselves, and what looks still in the daytime begins to feel strangely alive in a new and quieter way. Because forests do not go to sleep when the sun sets. They change. Their rhythms slow in some places and awaken in others. The chemistry of leaves shifts. The temperature of the air drops. Water moves differently through trunks and stems. Flowers release perfume into the darkness. Fungi continue their silent work beneath the soil. Nocturnal animals begin to step into the open. And above it all, the trees remain, not asleep in the way animals sleep, but living through the night in their own patient and deeply ancient way. So, tonight, as the world grows quieter, let's take our time. Let's step gently into the secret life of forests after dark. And as we do, you can simply listen, breathe slowly, and let the forest become softer and softer around you. A forest at night first feels different because light is more than brightness. Light is structure. During the day, sunlight defines everything. It sharpens the outlines of trunks and branches. It reveals movement. It gives color its confidence. But when evening arrives, that structure begins to loosen. The forest is no longer organized by sight in the same way. Instead, other senses begin to rise. Sound becomes richer. Smell becomes deeper. The coolness of the air becomes more noticeable on skin, on bark, on stone, on leaf. And in this dimness, the forest is not empty. It is simply changing modes. For plants, night marks a profound shift in activity. During the day, leaves capture sunlight and use it to power photosynthesis, the remarkable process that turns light, water, and carbon dioxide into sugars that fuel life. This is one of the great biological miracles of Earth, happening quietly in countless green surfaces all around us. But when darkness comes, photosynthesis slows to a stop. That does not mean the tree becomes inactive. Far from it. At night, trees continue to respire, just as animals do. They use oxygen and break down stored sugars to release energy. In a sense, nighttime is when trees begin to spend some of what they gathered during the day. This makes the forest at night feel almost like a different economy. Day is for collecting light. Night is for redistributing energy, repairing tissues, adjusting water balance, supporting growth, and continuing all the hidden metabolic work of being alive. It may look still from the outside, but stillness is not the same as inactivity. A tree can appear motionless while thousands of processes unfold inside it. Water tension shifts inside the xylem. Sugars move through the phloem toward roots, shoots, and storage tissues. Cells continue dividing in certain growing regions. Chemical signals travel through living tissue. Defensive compounds may rise or fall depending on the hour. The tree, in its own quiet way, is busy. And one of the most fascinating parts of this nighttime change is that trees seem to follow rhythms. Many plants live by circadian cycles, internal biological clocks that help them anticipate the pattern of day and night. These rhythms influence when flowers open, when leaves move, when scents are released, and how energy is managed across a 24-hour period. In some species, leaves droop slightly during the night. Branches settle. Water pressure inside tissues changes. The entire tree may subtly shift posture in ways too slow for human eyes to notice in real time. This is one of the most beautiful truths about forests. They move, just not on our usual scale. Human beings are tuned to faster motion, a running animal, a falling branch, wind in the canopy, a beard crossing the path. But the forest also contains slower motions, softer motions, rhythms that belong to hours rather than seconds. And at night, those motions become easier to imagine. Without the distraction of daylight, the forest feels like a place where patience is visible. As evening deepens, temperature begins to fall. This cooling matters. The air near the ground often becomes denser and calmer. Moisture may begin to gather. In some forests, dew forms on leaves and grasses. Tiny droplets collect along veins and edges, changing how light will later scatter when morning comes. Cooler air also changes scene. If you've ever walked near woods after sunset, you may have noticed that the smell becomes richer. Damp earth, resin, crushed leaves, moss, wood. Faint sweetness from flowers you did not notice in the daytime. Part of this is simple humidity, which can make scents feel fuller and more present. Part of it is that some plants deliberately release stronger fragrance at night. This is especially true for flowers that rely on nocturnal pollinators. Not all pollination belongs to daylight. Many moths, beetles, bats, and other nighttime visitors move through the darkness guided not by bright color, but by scent. For them, perfume is a path, a signal, an invitation. So while the daytime forest may advertise itself with color, the nighttime forest often speaks in fragrance. And what it says is gentle, precise, and old. Come here. There is nectar. There is pollen. There is a partnership waiting in the dark. This is one reason the forest at night can feel so mysterious to us. We are entering a world designed partly for other sense. A world that is not centered on human vision. In darkness, our own sight becomes less reliable. But for many creatures, the forest becomes easier to navigate, not harder. Owls emerge with extraordinary hearing and low-light vision. Moths drift through the understory, pale and silent. Bats cross above streams and openings, reading the world through echoes. Small mammals move beneath roots and shrubs, following scent trails and memory. Insects sing from bark, grass, and leaf litter. Frogs call from damp edges and hidden water, and under the soil, where day and night are less dramatic but still meaningful, fungi and microbes continue their endless labor. The forest floor is not just dirt. It is an active, layered, living system. Leaves fall, soften, and break down. Fungi send out thin threads called hyphae through soil and wood. Bacteria decompose organic matter into smaller and smaller pieces. Nutrients are released, transformed, exchanged, and taken up again by roots. Insects tunnel. Worms turn soil. Moisture carries dissolved minerals through dark spaces between particles. Nothing is wasted for long. The nighttime forest, then, is not only a place of sounds and shadows above ground. It is also a place of invisible recycling below ground. A place where death is continuously folded back into life, slowly and without ceremony. This may be one of the most peaceful things about forests. They do not rush. They do not panic over endings. They transform them. A fallen branch becomes food for fungi. A dead trunk becomes shelter for insects, mosses, and seedlings. Last year's leaves become tomorrow's soil. The forest is always letting go of one form and creating another. At night, this truth feels especially close. Perhaps because darkness reminds us that not all life needs to be brightly seen to continue. And the trees themselves, those great visible anchors of the forest, remain connected to all of this hidden change. A tree is not only a trunk with leaves above it. Much of its life extends underground through roots and associations with fungi. In many forests, mycorrhizal fungi form intricate relationships with roots, helping plants absorb water and nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen. In exchange, the fungi receive sugars produced by the plant. These relationships are ancient and widespread. They are not magical in the fantasy sense, but they are magical in the biological sense, which is often even more astonishing. Life assisting life through exchange, intimacy, and long coevolution. At night, while the canopy darkens and nocturnal animals stir, these underground partnerships remain active. Water and nutrients continue to move through soil. Roots continue sensing. Cells continue responding to chemical gradients and local conditions. The forest remains in conversation, though not in words. And perhaps that is another reason forests calm us. They are full of communication without noise. Signals pass through chemistry, scent, vibration, and timing. Messages are carried not as thoughts, but as responses. The opening of a flower, the release of a defense compound, the slow redistribution of resources, the attraction of a pollinator, the ripening of fruit, the dropping of seed. Everything belongs to rhythm. If you were to stand in a forest clearing and simply listen, the soundscape would tell you a great deal about night's arrival. At dusk, there is often a transition. Daybirds quiet down. Evening insects begin. The breeze may pass through the upper canopy while the lower forest stays still. Somewhere, perhaps, a branch creaks as temperature changes, slightly contract the wood. A distant animal moves through brush. One call answers another. Then, as full darkness settles in, the forest finds a new balance. Not silence, exactly, but layered quiet. There may be chirping, rustling, clicking, soft wings, the occasional call of an owl, a stream moving over stone, leaves touching in the faintest wind. These sounds do not usually demand attention in the way city sounds do. They overlap gently. They leave space between them. And in those spaces, the mind often begins to soften. There is a reason so many people find forest sounds calming. Partly, it may be because they are complex without being aggressive. The brain receives information, but not the harsh kind that requires immediate action. There is pattern, but also softness, repetition, but not monotony, rain on leaves, wind in branches, crickets at a distance, a stream passing through darkness. These are sounds that can hold the mind without tightening it. In a way, the nighttime forest is a masterclass in quiet attention. Nothing hurries, yet everything continues. And if we stay here a little longer, something even more subtle begins to appear. The forest at night changes not only biologically, but physically in shape and atmosphere. Humidity may rise. Mist may collect in lower places. The bark of trees may darken as moisture settles. Ferns may seem to glow faintly in moonlight, not because they produce light, but because pale surfaces catch whatever little illumination remains. Spider webs become invisible until a bead of moisture reveals them. Stones release the heat they stored during the day. Air pools in hollows. The entire forest becomes a landscape of gradients, warmer and cooler, drier and wetter, open and enclosed, fragrant and neutral. For nocturnal creatures, these differences matter enormously. A small owl may hunt along a woodland edge where open space meets cover. A salamander may emerge only when the air is damp enough to protect its skin. Moths may favor certain flowers at certain temperatures. Bats may shift their routes depending on insect activity. Even the timing of frog calls can respond to humidity and warmth. Night is not one single condition. It is a sequence of changing windows. Twilight, early night, deep night, pre-dawn, each with its own chemistry, temperature, and possibilities. And forests have been adapting to these windows for millions of years. Long before artificial light, long before roads, long before human schedules carved the day into measured hours, forests already knew how to live by the turning of earth. They knew dusk and moonrise and cold air settling near the roots. They knew how to flower for moths, how to wait for bats, how to respond to the long darkness of winter and the shorter nights of summer. To enter a forest after dark is, in a sense, to step into a timetable older than human timekeeping. It can be humbling, but also comforting, because the forest does not need us in order to keep its rhythms. It was rhythmic before us, and it remains rhythmic now. There is something restful in being near a system so ancient, so practiced, so patient. And patience may be the deepest lesson of the nighttime forest. A tree does not force its growth. It adds ring to ring, season to season. A moss does not rush across stone. A fungus does not hurry through wood. Soil is not made in a day. Restoration after disturbance often takes decades, centuries longer. Forests are places where time becomes tangible. During daylight, we often notice productivity, growth, greenness, flowering, movement. At night, we notice endurance, how the forest holds itself through darkness, how it continues without display, how it trusts the return of morning without needing to chase it. There is a quiet wisdom in that. Not everything meaningful has to happen in bright light. Not everything alive has to prove itself constantly. Some of the most important work in the forest happens in darkness, in stillness, in hours that seem uneventful from the outside. Repair, redistribution, pollination, decomposition, cooling, listening, waiting. If we think about our own lives, perhaps this is one reason forests at night can feel healing. They remind us that rest is not emptiness. Slowness is not failure. Quiet is not absence. Night does not erase the forest. Night reveals another half of it, and that hidden half is full of elegance. Even moonlight, when it reaches the forest floor, changes the mood without changing much of the underlying biology. Moonlight is far too dim for photosynthesis in most cases, but it still matters as atmosphere, as navigation, as timing for certain animals. Shadows stretch, pale bark glows, pools reflect silver. The canopy becomes a lacework against the sky. In such light, a familiar forest can feel almost dreamlike, yet it remains utterly real. Roots still absorbing, fungi still threading through soil, seeds waiting, mammals foraging, owls listening, leaves breathing, water climbing and falling within steams. The dreamlike feeling comes not because the forest has become unreal, but because darkness removes distraction. It lets us notice mystery where daylight encouraged certainty. And forests are, in truth, full of mystery. We still do not understand every partnership, every chemical signal, every underground exchange. We continue learning how forests respond to drought, how they recover from fire, how species assist one another, how networks form and fail, how climate reshapes old patterns. Science does not make the forest less enchanting. It makes it more so. Because the more closely we look, the more we find subtlety. What seems still is dynamic. What seems simple is layered. What seems silent is communicative. What seemed asleep is vividly alive. And maybe that is the most beautiful thing to remember tonight. The forest after dark is not a blank pause between one day and the next. It is its own world, a world of cool air and invisible labor, of perfume released for night pollinators, of fungi returning fallen things to soil, of roots in partnership, of leaves shifting their posture, of owls and moths and damp moss and quiet streams, of processes too slow for our eyes, but no less real for being slow. A world that continues whether or not anyone is watching. Perhaps that is why it feels so peaceful. The forest does not perform its life for us. It simply lives it. And in doing so, it offers a kind of companionship that asks nothing. You may stand among the trees or imagine standing there and feel no demand at all. No urgency, no sharp edge. only the gentle sense that life can continue softly, steadily, and without spectacle. If you are listening tonight while resting, while drifting, while letting the mind grow quieter, then perhaps you can take something with you from this dark forest. Not just the image of branches against the night sky, but the deeper feeling beneath it. That hidden activity is still activity. That quiet work is still work. That darkness can be full of life. And that rest is not the opposite of living, but part of how living endures. So the next time you think of a forest after sunset, you might imagine it differently. Not as a place gone still, but as a place gently transformed. The leaves no longer gathering sunlight, yet still breathing. The roots still exploring soil. The flowers still calling softly to the night. The fungi still building tomorrow from yesterday's fallen things. The animals of darkness stepping carefully through pathways older than memory. And above them all, the trees holding their slow and watchful place beneath the stars. Thank you for wandering here tonight. And if you like, you can stay a little longer in your imagination. The air is cool. The ground is soft with old leaves. Somewhere nearby, water moves quietly over stone. High above, branches rest against the sky. And all around you, the forest continues its secret life in the dark. Softly, patiently, endlessly. Good night.